Travis, it is great to have you on the show. Thanks for stopping by, taking the
Yeah,
time out of
thank
your
you for having
schedule.
me.
Of course,
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, well, what brings me here, I think, is this coaster or card tile
Hmm.
business that I've got going. I was a kid collector in the '90s, like a lot of people. I was about 10 years old and spent all my card money or yard work money, I should say,
Hmm.
on cards at a
Yeah.
local card shop here. And for me, it was basketball cards. So I was always looking for Clyde Drexler, who I thought at the time was better than Michael Jordan. I died on that hill.
Glide the glide. You gotta love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
my guy right there.
Yeah.
And I was right, when we were knocking on the door of a title, but unfortunately
Mhm.
Jordan stood in the way of that. But
Yeah.
um,
Definitely.
I collected then and then grew out of it, but I kept my collection for, and as I got into adulthood, I'd take my cards from place to place. And every once in a while, like probably 10 years or so, I would go online and try to figure out if I had the rich collection that I thought I would.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
went down. And
Yes. So you never became the millionaire like
it
all
was,
of
No,
us
yeah,
do.
no.
bad
Yeah.
investment. I think everyone probably knows that. Junk era, total, like, early '90s. They were just printing
Mhm.
that cards like crazy. I had a Jordan card that I was so proud of. It was like a $25 card. So that was always the first one I would check. So
Mhm.
I'd go on eBay when that was around, and then before that, go to Beckett or whatever. And it was like 25 bucks when I pulled it as a kid. And so it like straight into I think I had a screw down case for that one. But
Nice.
that was like prime spot
That's
on my
big time.
shelf.
Yeah, as a kid to have a screw down case. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big deal. And then I saw it on eBay 6 years ago. It sold for like 99 cents. I was like, "All right, what am I doing with these
Oh
cards?
no.
Why am I lugging these from
Oh
like place to place?" But I couldn't get rid of them because I like them. I'm
yeah.
nostalgic and good memories attached to them. So I don't know. I just one thing led to another. For better and worse, I've got a personality where I just try to do things different, and
Hmm.
Us too.
so
Yeah. We're the same
now
way.
I
Yeah.
just make these kind of absurdly intricate coasters.
Yeah.
And
Well, that
So
kind of
wait.
leads me
So
into my.
well, hold on. So you
Okay.
absurdly intricate coasters. So I mean, I've looked at them. I honestly like. I think my mother-in-law collects tiles. Right. She's got all these tiles from all these different countries she went to. It's an actual
that's
thing.
that's cool.
And
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, for me, when I saw it, the first thing I thought was, oh, I would display that on like a little card holder, a card holder or something. Like it
Mhm.
seems more like art to me than a coaster. And I can tell you
Yeah.
firsthand, my wife made some of these for our family members. We had some kids pictures in there and whatnot, and the
Hmm.
trouble she went through just to create, let's say maybe 8 or 9 of these things, it was
Yes.
insane, and so I
Mhm.
know that that there's a high level of work and detail and ethic that goes into this. And yeah, we can call them coasters, but buddy, I think they're far more than that. They're works of art, man, and
Yeah.
that's
Thank
what drew
you.
me to them.
That's what,
Artistic
I
tiles.
started out and I was like, I'm going to make some coasters out of cards, and that's kind of what I started out doing. And I was painting. Um, the first things I made, I was painting basketball courts, and you piece them together like a puzzle. And I was selling them. I was making like 50 cents an hour probably when I did the math, because it was just like I just needed to see if there was some interest out there.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But I appreciate what you're saying. That's why I named myself or my company uh, Classic Card Tiles, because yeah, they started out as coasters. That was the original goal, but then they turned into things that um, you know that I hope people display on a stand. I think about 30% of my customers buy them as like conversation piece fancy
Mhm.
coasters that they actually use, and they hold up pretty well with that. I use a fancy resin for it, but yeah, my hope is that people display them proudly, and I gotta get. I sell like a little stand along with them now, so people can display them in a stand. But I've got some stuff in my brain about like a special kind of stand that I gotta roll out one of these days. So stay tuned; that'll come someday.
Maybe some like LEDs, some Wi-Fi built into that bad boy. Like you could
Yeah,
make a
that
whole
would
thing out of.
go. That would go with my my thing of just maybe going overboard on the design. So
So we had a small disagreement when we right before you came on. Basically, he didn't know that your tiles were layered with the neoprene, the hardwood, and then the resin top layer. I think
Yeah.
he thought they were actually
Hold on, I didn't
like
know
a
about the wood part, right? So
Okay.
okay.
my interpretation, okay, so I like to go into this having you explain everything to us because I want to go
Mm.
in as the dummy, and you know, I want it to be simply made. So he was mentioning the wood part, but I didn't know that. So like how, I guess, kind of top to bottom, how is one of these made?
All right. So here, yeah, here's the short version of it. So I
Yeah,
start out with 1/8 inch birch hardwood, like 3-ply hardwood, and then I cut it and I sand it and I seal it because it's got to be real smooth. Otherwise, if I do painting on it and stuff,
gotcha. Yeah,
it'll
yeah, yeah.
bleed into the wood grain.
Hmm.
So I learned that the hard way. So I do that. I get it all prepped, and then depending on the card, I paint a design. So I'm sitting at my desk now, so I've got like tons of Posca pens.
Okay.
So that's usually what I use for design. I've got like all the different sizes. So that's kind of fun. But so I do that, paint the design. I use a lot of packaging, so usually it's like the card and then the wrapper that the card would have come in. So I cut that to size. Nowadays, I back the wrapper. So I have like a wrapper here. This is I think a 79. I get 79 and 78 baseball mixed up, but now I put like a little white vinyl behind it so that it doesn't bleed through the color, so the color pops. um, I glue that on and then I seal it with a glue sealer. Then that's got to cure, and then I pour the resin on it. And if the resin works out, then I paint the edges, and then I paint the back, and then I put the neoprene backing on, along with the sticker that has the information about the
Yeah, I
tile.
saw
So
even the back had the information and some kind of graphics on there. That was pretty cool. I thought it was just
Honestly,
gonna be
that,
like a
yeah,
flats, like
that's one of my
neoprene.
favorite parts about it, and I think that that's kind of what makes it like like an art piece, right? Is
Hmm.
that you've got, you know, something that collectors really like is they like to, rarity is one of those things that they really like, you know, and they like to have a piece that not everybody has, you know, and
mhm.
you create stuff like that, and then, you know, you've got a maybe a numbered process on the back of them or whatever, and it's like, you know, nobody can have that. It's one of one. This was my creation, your creation, out of our minds. It's just, it's really neat that way, and I think that that sticker on the back kind of sets it all off.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an evolution. When I first started, I didn't sign them or anything because I was just kind of thinking of them more simply. But as it's grown, I started signing the back of them. Then I
Oh,
started
cool.
signing the front of them, and then more recently, I created that bigger label on the back with the additions and that kind of stuff. So now I've got a lot to track to make sure I'm not like duplicating some of those additions and things. But
I
Exactly.
mean, what's
um,
your biggest edition run on on any one tile? I mean, do you do more than 20, or is it like, you know, five or yeah,
I have like basic designs that are just open edition. So I do some of the more basic things. Let me see if I have one handy.
we've actually got one, I think. Let me see if I can add this here to the screen. Um, Troy, do you think you
Oh
could
yeah,
start that one up? Just
Yeah,
so
the
it's
Michael Jordan.
spinning. Yeah, yeah. This one here. So this is,
nice.
yeah, that's pretty sweet, man. I
Yeah.
mean, and
Thank
you've
you.
got it in front of the retro boombox, like the framing of the
Yeah,
picture.
the
It's just
marketing is
perfect.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
So
been a fun part of the learning curve for me. Yeah, so that one's an open edition. But what I like to do, kind of like how card companies do it, I have like kind of a basic design, and that's one that if it's real popular, I can just make it. But there is a numbered system, so you kind of know where you're at in the number. And I don't make that many of these because it takes a bit of time. I make
Hmm.
them in batches of about 20 to 30, and a batch usually takes about 2 weeks.
oh my
Mainly
gosh.
because it's not my day job,
Primary job.
so I've
Yeah.
got other
Yeah.
stuff going
Exactly.
on.
Yeah.
But, even though it's an open edition, there's not gonna be that many of them, and so there will be a point
Mhm.
where I can kinda say, "Okay, well, this edition is over, and I got to, like, 27 on it or something." But I do, then I can kinda create a more intricate design off the same card and the same wrapper, and then
What's
those ones are more limited.
it's, yeah, it's kind of like a chase card or something of that edition. You know, you've got maybe two or three super limited chase cards of that same style or something. But yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's the way you want to go with that. So I mean, how long have you? I don't know if we got to that part. How long you been doing this? I mean, 20 years, 10 years?
I started actually selling them in 2019, and
Okay,
so it was kind of early COVID era. Like a lot of people, I was just kind of
Yep.
discovering some new ways to spend my time. And it was quite a long, deep rabbit hole I went down, like learning how to do the resin and
I was going
figuring
to
out
ask
where to
about that as
source
well too.
materials and all that.
Whether or not you were familiar with any kind of woodworking or sanding or cutting or use of the resins or anything like that before this all started.
I had not used resin before, no, and that
Mhm.
was a learning curve. Man, the early stuff, I still keep it just, for nostalgic reasons, I guess, but it's pretty ugly. And the cheap resin, um, man, don't buy the cheap stuff. If anyone's watching this and you're thinking about dabbling, just don't go to like Michael's or Joanne Fabric or something and
Mhm.
buy whatever they have because it's not going to go well. It's going
right.
to be weird and sticky and yellow. But um, yeah, I just kind of went and bought it. I grew up, my dad is a real handy guy, and I
Mhm.
grew up kind of helping him. My day job is not so handy. I do more like working people, social services kind of thing. Um, but I needed something. I kind of like having something to work with my hands and stuff.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I think I was handy before, but yeah, I really had to learn the hard way a lot about the resin. There was like some different stages. At first it was just figuring out how to get it to like cure well, and like you got to mix it just right, and you got to
Using a two
like
part or using like a
transfer.
UV.
It's not the UV resin, but it would
Yeah.
be fun to experiment with that. I use a brand called Stone Coat Countertops, and so their main product is actually for kitchen countertops.
Yeah, yeah, doing
And
like
I chose them partially because I was
epoxy chip
thinking in
kind of thing.
terms of like I wanted it to hold up well if people were putting a hot coffee cup on there or something like
Mhm.
that.
Hmm.
But they have a line of it. It's like the same stuff, but it's for art. And so there's like UV
Awesome.
protection, and it's got extra like yellow resistance resin
Yeah,
to
epoxies can
prevent
like
yellow
really
over
yellow,
time.
especially with any kind of UV light happening to them.
Yeah, yeah. So I've never, I have my old stuff, and so far so good. In 5 years, I don't see any sign
Mhm.
of degrading and stuff. So hopefully
That's great.
it'll stay like that. But
Yeah, that's
fighting
pretty.
the bubbles, fighting the dust, all of that kind of stuff is.
I
Do you
saw
use
one
a
of your
pressure pot
videos.
of any kind or?
I do. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was one step that before I did that, it was really hard to get the little tiny bubbles out,
Mhm.
so I was fighting
Mhm.
those and torching it, and sometimes I couldn't get like the little micro bubbles out, so it looked a little bit
A little
foggy,
hazy? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then yeah, I got one of those, and that's a game changer. So then
Mhm.
I have a whole routine. I mix it all up. I use a power drill to stir it in real good, and then I like
Yep.
take it out to the garage where I've got my vacuum pump. I put that on and vacuum all the bubbles out, and then I come back in here.
So it's a
Um,
lot more detailed process than just slapping some stuff together, gluing this, gluing that. I mean, you've got it really down to a science. I mean, I think I saw in one video you've got individual covers for these, so they're
yeah,
drying and they're. I mean, I think I saw like 20 covers. I'm like, wow, like this is not just the 5 minute video I watched on YouTube about how to do something like this. It's like it's very intricate. I mean, you've got a lot
Mhm.
going on.
yeah. Thank you. It is. I take pride in the fact that I've like way almost like overthought every single moment of every step. There's like all these little things that I've learned kind of through trial and error, what to do, what not to do, that kind of thing. So yeah, the little covers, that was because it couldn't get the dust out with like a big cover. So I needed each one to have its own thing. So it only had like a
Just the
split second of
individual little
time.
covers. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, I
Mhm.
like how I think you said you in that video you dabbed the epoxy on the top, so you know that when that dried, you were probably close to dry with your timer or whatever the case may be. I thought
Mhm.
that, like I said, I thought that level of detail and care in the process. I mean, it really comes through in the end product, right? You're providing something that's super awesome, just in the nostalgia portion of
Yeah.
it, but also the detail of it is just
It's a
top
quality
notch.
product. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's top
fantastic.
notch.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
Appreciate that.
So let me ask you, the cards, you collected the cards. Is there anything else that you're, tickles your fancy as far as collecting, or maybe gaming, or are you into movies? Like what else do you find doing in your spare time outside of this?
You know, I mean, old radios, that's why I use them in the background. That one that I use all the time, it just seems to work the best, but I was kind of bummed because it's a good excuse to buy other old radios and boom
Hmm.
boxes and stuff. And I bought one and I thought it would be a good like next one to use. Um, but it just has a weird reflection with the
On the
photography
cassette,
lighting and
on the
stuff.
cassette right there.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
problem. So, I like those, cat like old watches. I like not even anything expensive. I don't not even trying to collect anything with the watches that are valuable. In fact, I think the cheaper the better. I just like the old Casio stuff.
I
So,
was about to say, I was about to ask Casio, or like you're
Ev-
talking mechanical or something like that, but I'm
yeah,
sure he's got the
yeah.
Casio with the calculator.
I
So
don't
I
know if you've
got I
seen the
do have some
movie.
calculator
Oh
ones,
my
but
gosh. So listen, I don't know if you've ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John
The
Candy and Steve
Casio.
Martin, but
it's been a
he's got,
while, but yeah, I've seen
yeah,
that
he
one.
drapes the Casio over his arm. He's like, I've got a Casio, and I'm like, oh my god, I think it's that same
Yeah.
watch.
I need to watch it again because that moment would, resonate with me. I like that
Yeah,
one.
totally, totally. That's cool, man. So yeah, I know I find myself going to, I collect all kinds of stuff, from pops to comics to, cards to, you name it. I pretty much kind of collect it, and I find myself at thrift stores, or occasionally
Mhm.
if I can get out to even flea markets. I just love going and finding neat stuff, and I'm sure watches that was never on my list, but I'm gonna have to search now for the neat watches, the
Dive in,
Sure,
calculators.
dude.
and
Yeah.
there's got to be some great finds at like flea markets.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you inspiration, right?
Hmm.
And do you find yourself, Travis, like hurting for inspiration every once in a while? Is it like the art process in that way? Like, or do you constantly have a new project on a whiteboard? Because it strikes me as that maybe is the kind of guy you are. Like, you've got a direction, ready to go. Is that the case, or?
Now so I built a collection. The irony of it is that I very first I was like, okay, I got to get rid of these cards that I had. So I had like one box and I was like, okay, I'm just going to make these things well, and that then I won't have to lug them around anymore. And now like you can see behind me I've got way more cards than before.
So you,
But
so
I mean,
it
it would take me like 8.
started with getting rid of them, but ended up with I have more now. Like,
Yeah, and I love like even sports I wasn't even into as a kid. I'm into now because I interact with these folks that are so passionate about. Like I didn't follow hockey when I was a kid.
mm,
I knew who Wayne Gretzky was, but I've had customers reach out about like a certain guy that, and then they kind of share like why they care so much about it that they
oh,
want
that's
to
amazing.
hire me to create a tile for them. And then I find myself like looking for that guy. It's like, oh, that I'm gonna buy that card now because I know the story about him and I know how it affected this person.
That's cool.
Um, I
Yeah,
played
it's really
baseball,
cool.
but to be honest, I didn't collect those cards as much because I was so focused on basketball. But now it's like just kind of vicariously through the folks that I interact with, I hear the stories and I get more interested in it. So it's caused me to it's kind of bled over into a lot of things. Comic books, I'm probably more into now than I was as a kid. I love the artwork in comic books, and so it's fun for me to find a way to frame that and to like accentuate it in the product that I make. Um,
What's your favorite comic book one that you've created? Like, have you, are you doing covers? Are you doing comic cards? I mean, I think I've seen both. I mean, what's your kind of your favorite one to do?
yeah, well, so there's a couple things. One, I like the cards that they made. Early '90s is always going to catch my attention just because that was my childhood. That's what I'm nostalgic about.
Yep.
So when I pair like a early '90s card, like Wolverine or some
Yeah,
of these
we'd seen
guys,
the
the
Wolverine one pop
classic.
up. That was
Oh yeah, there
great.
we go.
Yeah.
Um, so that one is the card and then the matching pack wrapper, and that one's fun because it's got a lot of metallic, like
Yeah. Yeah,
holographic
that
kind
really
of
stood out to
imagery.
me.
So when you see it in hand, it's really really kind of
Impressive.
pops.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's the fun with the resin is it brings out that holographic stuff so
Yes.
muit.
Well, I mean, and then it cases it. I mean, it foreverizes it, I guess, would be my layman's term for that.
Yeah,
It,
'cause
Mhm,
it's
I'm sure that
mhm.
foil over time can probably, not last very well.
Right. And now
for
it's, I
sure.
mean, now it's forever. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
so I'm a big fan of like the early 90s cards as well for those. The Impel set with the white border.
Yep.
Um, version 1 and 2 are probably my old school sets because that's what we traded when we were kids. So yeah, I really love that. What about comic covers? Have you dipped into, hacking up a piece of a cover and done that?
Yeah. So that more of that's coming soon because I just got I did a trade with somebody and got a big old box of comic books that I'm pretty excited to use.
Nice.
So that's a new one. I just sold a Wolverine one recently that I was pretty excited about, and that one actually. So that project you just showed, I had cut out the cover and framed it so that the card was actually going to go over it. But
Oh,
every
that's
time I
right.
put the
That blue
card on it,
cover. Yeah, I think I see that, right? The blue Wolverine with his slicing through
yeah,
the cover.
exactly,
Okay, yep.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that one was supposed to have that card from that previous one you just showed, but I
Mhm.
is like I couldn't cover up that image of the cover. It looked too good, and every time I tried to figure out a way to finagle it with the card, I was like, I just need to just post it as it is in its simplicity. And it sold, and as a business person, I kind of follow like what sells, and so that gives
Yeah.
me feedback if it's people telling me what's valuable to them when they pay their money for it. So yeah, more to come. I'm going to experiment with that and see how I can frame these amazing comic book covers and art using my tiles. So that'll be a fun road to go down.
Have
So I
you
gotta ask.
considered, hold on, have you
Mhm.
considered using larger tiles? Like, have you thought about doing mosaics on maybe the 12-inch or the 13-inch tile? Is that possible?
Yeah, I got to go back to that. So when I first started doing this, I branched out into some bigger things. I was at the time I was really focused on painting hardwood courts, like NBA courts. So I was doing like 16 by was it 24 by 12 size courts, and
Wow.
I put the cards on there. And that was pretty fun. I the kind of requires a whole different workflow and things. And then the tiles were selling so well that I don't have like unlimited time, so I just kind of went back to them. And that 4x4
Yeah.
it's just kind of easy to
It's
have
easy. Yep.
Mhm.
a predictable product. But at the same time, even like one more inch, if they were 5x5, it would open up the door for a lot more detail to go in there, especially because I'm limited. I don't print materials, like I don't photocopy and then I can't like shrink it down or anything because I just like
Yeah.
the history of using like the actual material. So it's
Sure.
always the real card, the real wrapper, the real comic book page. Um, all of that. So that does limit me sometimes when there's like a beautiful image, but with a 4x4 section of it, it's just not going to look right. So
Right.
then I kind of have those things on the back burner. But yeah, I think I never know like from month to month what I might end up doing. And sometimes I'll have someone reach out like that idea you just shared, and they'll say, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And then I do it. So
Just kind of give it a
maybe
shot. Yeah.
someday.
Yeah.
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 Troy, what were you gonna say?
We got to talk about this one right here. Let me throw this guy up here. I believe it's this one. Is that it? Yes, it is. It's all right. It's the
Hey, vanilla
it's
ice.
yeah, it's the vanilla ice. It's the vanilla ice. So I think the card style, it's a superstars. I've just never heard of this kind of card brand before. Like what is this all about? Is it
Is that like
album
a
art?
Fleer? I mean, yeah, like what is that?
So yeah, I didn't know about these as a kid, but now I have my eyes out for different like new things I can try. And there's a seller on Etsy. I wish I had his name. I'd plug him. But I can send that to you later if you'd like. But he
Sure.
sells like lots of like 4 packs of these kind of random. Some of it's not random. It's like baseball stuff that we've seen before, but some of it's like this. So Pro Set. This is 1991, I believe. Pro Set. They call them music cards. So I bought I think 4 packs of them. Super excited to get my guy Vanilla Ice in there. I wanted to be like him
Ice Ice
when he was
Baby, yeah.
popular.
What about some
And
hammer? There's got to be some hammer pants in
there's
there.
a MC Hammer. I didn't pull it, but I think I got to go back to the well and get the MC Hammer one. I
Sure,
got some
yeah.
more wrappers, and
And it
I
brings
was
back,
excited
yeah,
with how
with
it
the
turned
boom
out.
box and everything, it brings back so many memories of
Yeah.
Yeah.
recording these songs and putting together. I remember my Justin Jay Bleasy here had the Vanilla Ice uh cassette. at one point. It
We
was
wore it
fantastic.
out, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Oh
was
yeah.
like, it was one of the few cassettes that I had that the parents didn't know about. I slid that
Hmm.
one under the pillow at night, even though, I mean, we all know at this point, Vanilla Ice is probably the least racy rapper in the world. But
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
for us, he was pushing the limits of raciness.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a great card. I'd love to see some more from that style because I think that you're hitting on something with that.
Cool. Yeah, it's fun to. I mean, who knew they made so many types of cards back then? I was so focused on one thing, and now that I'm doing this and people ask questions, like they made cards for everything back then. So
Have anybody asked you for like any kind of like garbage pail kids or
yeah,
anything
yeah,
of that
yeah.
nature? Kind of like off the wall non-sports, other than like celebrities.
I've made some garbage pail projects. I had to come around on them. I didn't like them when I was a kid. I
Okay.
hope that doesn't offend anybody here,
No,
but
no.
We
I
actually couldn't have them, so yeah, we get what you're
Yeah.
we get your pain.
yeah, and my mom
We
follows
came from a
me.
strict
I'm not gonna
background,
lie.
so
My mom follows me, and it grieves her a bit when I if I post a garbage pail kid one. I love my mom, but
Yeah,
yeah.
they're not so bad, right? For the most part, and that was my most requested non-sports thing was the Garbage Pail
Okay.
Kids one.
Cool.
So yeah, I did one. It sold quickly, and then I've just been caught up so much with custom orders lately that I haven't like gone back to that. But yeah, more Garbage Pail Kids are coming.
yeah, that'd
Awesome.
be cool. I think there's some Dick Tracy cards. I'd love to see maybe something like that. Or I think there's Batman Return. There's so many. I
Oh
actually
Yeah.
yeah.
went to a card no, a yard sale. It was a yard sale. A guy was selling off his collection. And you're right. It's interesting from that time frame, 80s and 90s. There's a card for everything, number one. And
Hmm.
number two, there's an action figure for everything. I mean, we
Yeah.
did we merchandised the crap out of whatever
Well,
happened.
Mel Brooks' famous line: "Merchandising, merchandising, merchandising."
Hmm.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. It was an
So
interesting time.
you asked a good question that I don't think I answered a while back, and that's like if I run out of creative ideas. So I took a real long-winded way of saying I don't because there's like a million cards
Mhm.
that I go through, and maybe I can only make a batch of 25, and it sometimes it's like too many ideas, and then I have to like
Yeah.
maybe I lay out 50 ideas, and I'm trying to think of what I like and then what my customers might be interested in, and then I have to put some away. And yeah, it's I could be busy for a while doing this thing, even just in the narrow path that I'm on now. But
Exactly.
it's uh yeah, there's a lot to do.
Have you had anybody famous reach out to you? I mean, it looks like you've got some reach. You're making an awesome product. You're making it of superstars that are no longer necessarily in the limelight. So a lot of those guys might be more apt to reach out or to get a product of themselves made. And
Mhm.
anybody famous?
So my most famous, I wouldn't say I've had a famous customer. I did have a previous MLB baseball player um, order some of his card, and then his grandpa was in the 1952 top
Oh
set.
wow.
So he sent me the 1952 tops um, card of his grandpa, and then also his rookie card. My
What?
customer wasn't in the
That's
league real
awesome.
long, but that was such a cool story, like that
Yeah.
connection between the generations in the family. So that was a meaningful project, and that was kind of cool just to have a baseball player want me to memorialize his time that way.
I
Yeah,
love these
absolutely. I
stories.
mean,
These stories are so great.
well, right, because every card has a story, and that's the same for I think most collectors is they can grab that card up and they can tell you, hey, this was at this point in my life, and this is where I was at, and this is what was going on. And
Hmm.
I know like a lot of my cards are of that time frame you were talking about, the let's call it the mid to 80s to maybe 92, 93. And I mean, I can pick up my 87 set of tops, that wood grain set, and I just
Mhm,
I remember trading that set amongst the kids in the neighborhood, getting my Jose Canseco rookies, and just cards like you said earlier. It was baseball for me, but
mhm.
cards that you thought would be worth a gazillion bucks when you're 20 years down the road, and they're worth only a couple pennies. But the
Hmm.
nostalgia, that's priceless. That's why I lug them from house to house.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why we're all here
yeah.
in the first place, anyways. In the collectibles and memorabilia community.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah. So, I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, we can kind of, unless you've got anything else on your mind, we can kind of close her out. But one of the questions I like to ask towards the end is, my brother and we're both married. We've got kids running around. It's tough to often find time to do stuff like the show or other projects that we're on and things we want to do with our time. Are you
Mhm.
married? Do you have kids? Do you find it, if so, is it hard to juggle this? Is the wife standing just off the screen there like mine, just like, hurry up, we've got dinner? Like, how does that go for you?
Yeah, I'm married, and I've got 4 kids, and yeah, the life is busy right now. The way we're doing this call is that my wife has a timeout with her ladies, so she's over at her friend's house, and
Nice.
then 2 of my kids are at a sleepover with grandparents, which wasn't because of this, but that just kind of helped. And then my boys are playing a basketball video game on the other side of the wall over here, so
Nice.
kept
There
them
you go.
busy with the screen time. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
awesome.
it is a challenge finding time between my day job and then I got to be a family man first, right? And so
sure.
that's the
Mhm.
number one priority.
Yep.
Sleep is the thing that takes the biggest hit, honestly. So
Oh,
during the
all the
week, I got
time,
some
like,
orders coming in, and yeah, just kind of
yeah, the bags.
sacrifice sleep.
Yeah, but when you're doing like that's the thing too, is when you're doing something you love, like even tonight for us, we're on the East Coast, so it's like 10:45, but I'm energized, man, because this is
Yeah.
something I like to do.
Mhm.
And I totally get that. I think I maybe bag maybe five 5 hours of good sleep a night, maybe
Mhm.
at
Yeah.
tops.
Usually, yeah.
I've got a lot of kids too. I've got our fifth daughter is actually on the way.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah, so I'm a man of many daughters. You said you got boys, so maybe down in the future, we can dowry them off to you. And but long story short is, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's tough to find time, and it's always family first, right? So
Yep.
if I got yelled at 5 minutes from now to get off the stream, I'd have to get off the stream, right?
It's time to get
That's
off.
right.
All right. Well, Travis, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for stopping by.
I really do giving us a shot. I know
This
we
was
didn't have a
fun.
lot of stuff for you to kind of look at, but I hope you enjoyed it. We really do want to just kind of shine light on people in the communities that we're in, and we're like a buy local type thing. We want people to really invest in people that are doing something positive in the community. They're actually doing something at all, and I think
Mhm.
that people should support that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I really
exactly.
appreciate it. Thanks for the chance to be here, and it's really nice meeting you guys. I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much. Nice meeting you
I'll be
too.
a viewer going forward too. So I'm excited to see what you guys come up
Awesome.
with.
Cool. We appreciate it. We're going to put this on probably, let's just say we'll do this next week's show. We'll run this live during our live show. So if you want to catch it or if you want to promote it throughout the week, great. Travis, we loved having you, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, fantastic,
All right.
Travis.
Thanks.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.